Greetings. I promised you all a quiz review, and it took me a minute because I had to make the quiz. Can't tell you what to look for in the quiz if there is no quiz. So, that being said, I've done that now, and what's covered on this one is going to be a comparative essay on why Europe, as opposed to China or elsewhere, took the lead in the advance of science and technology in the 17th century, which we kind of touched on in that last lecture, like why England of all places, why Europe, why not China, why not India, anywhere else. And then you have a couple of selections from our friend Voltaire, the ignorant philosopher, and Candide, and then Olympe de Gouges and her response to the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Excuse me. As you can see, I did not come to class today. Felt like garbage, and my U.S. honors kids, as some of you know, were doing online quiz. So anyway, on the comparative essay, just kind of obviously, what are the reasons? Why did Europe take the lead as opposed to China? Just be able to identify from a list of sentences, like, okay, this was a reason why Europe took the lead instead of China. Just the ignorant philosopher, very straightforward. He's denouncing something very specific, and just know what is that? What is he declaring as ridiculous? And Candide, he talks about a couple of different experiences that Candide has. Obviously, it's satire, as we talked about. It's very over the top, but it allows Voltaire to continue to mock, those institutions that we talked about in lecture as well. So just pay attention to those particular experiences that Candide has and be able to say, yes, I remember that. Olympe de Gouges, just why did she decide to produce this alternative to the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen? What is the point? And then lectures, you had the French Revolution lecture, Haitian Revolution lecture, and then I supplemented the last one with the day we had the short films on Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution, and then the other one on Simon Bolivar and the Latin American revolutions. And then the last one was Industrial Revolution. Speaking of which, I altered the schedule for this course, a year or two ago. Maybe it was during COVID, and that's why I can't remember exactly. But I had a noble cause. I was trying to add some things in there, like the Tokugawa Japan stuff and fleshing out the Haitian and Latin American revolutions and what have you. Decolonization. Then I took some things out, and it occurred to me we just went like lightning speed through the 19th century and also didn't cover the transatlantic slave trade or the scientific revolution. What I may do after this quiz on Tuesday is kind of take elements of some of those things that we missed. Also the revolutions of 1848. I just feel like it's absurd to go almost immediately from Napoleon to the Great War. So we may have to mix up the schedule even more than it's already mixed up being behind. But anyway, things to look for in your lecture notes. We talked a great deal at the onset of the French Revolution lecture about the Enlightenment, and we kind of zeroed in on the idea of republicanism, democracy, but also the idea of classical liberalism as espoused by John Locke and is embraced by the French revolutionaries. So I'm looking at this now. I may ask you specifically about classical liberalism, and or I may ask you for that to identify that definition of the Enlightenment that I gave you. We talked a good bit about the Estates General, so kind of pay attention to the structure of the Estates General. In terms of Haitian Revolution, we laid out kind of what Saint-Domingue looks like at the eve or on the eve of the revolution, and what are the kind of major social groups, what are the four major groups. Pay attention to that. We talked about the Maroon communities and Boukman Dutty, the Voodoo Hungan, and the beginnings of the slave portion of the revolution. They talked about that in the film as well. So kind of go back to your film notes and see, what was the idea for this when they they have this festival of Bois Quémant, and the tropical storm comes in. And what were the slaves, the runaway slaves, trying to do at that moment? And what were they not trying to do, even though it gets portrayed differently among the whites? Simon Bolivar, just kind of know which countries will trace their independence to what Bolivar did, and then also too, remember, who does Bolivar become? And we had it both. Well, I guess we didn't really lecture. I didn't really lecture about him at all because we cut that short. But typically Bolivar is portrayed as, well, on the one hand this, but on the other hand this. So just kind of know the two sides to Bolivar. And in Industrial Revolution lecture, spent the first quarter of that class period, maybe more, talking about the agricultural revolution that is absolutely necessary for, or is the precursor to, the Industrial Revolution, the beginnings of it. Be able to identify what was the agricultural revolution. And then I gave you that definition of the Industrial Revolution. I'm not going to ask you to give that back to me word for word, but I want you to be able to take that definition and say, okay, here's how that applies to the first Industrial Revolution, and here's how that applies differently to the second Industrial Revolution. And if you do those things, you're going to do great. I think that's it. So we'll see you tomorrow, and good luck.